What is up, Scrub Fam? I am back. Origins was insane. I got back Sunday, getting settled in for work for the week. But as always, I always have to do a recap of any event that I go to. So we're doing an Origins recap. This is 63 of 65, an Origins recap. It's gonna be pretty sick. But in general, weekend started off fresh. Wednesday got in, met up with the boys, went and played some Argent Siege. It was pretty okay. The game is pretty good. There's some design flaws, of course, which you'll notice as you play the game. But of course, the game itself has solid principles. I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'm excited to see what the prizing shakes up to be and the lore whenever that finally comes. Because right now, there's just things. What's a dragon hold? I don't know what a dragon hold is. Do you know what a dragon hold is? No one knows what a dragon hold is. But I digress. We're here to talk about some Dragon Balls. And so first thing I'm going to do is get into my props. Props to the people I stayed with. Richard Zapp, Jose Mercado, of course Jose's brother as well, Nathan Reinhardt, Marcus Cantarsi, Frisco, and the DBS community, which was in wonderful order. It was great to be around everybody. Great to hang out with everyone, talk, spend some time with, talk about the game we love, what we want to see going forward. Being able to see the Bandai reps there was super sweet. But in general, really big props to everyone that attended this event, because this event definitely was having some issues. Just from the side of where it wasn't really advertised as much. Communication was pretty poor when it came to the events itself, how they were going to work. There was a lot of negativity surrounding the event. There was a lot of negativity surrounding Dragon Ball heading to this event, and of course at the event itself, which was very, very upsetting. So that's where I go into the slops. So slops cost versus prizing. This was just another realization. This is a hobby. You're playing this game, and if you expect this game to offer you anything more than hobby and time with your friends, then you are mistaken. So the cost was $80 to get into, of course, the con itself, and then, of course, you have to pay for the events. And this is something I definitely thought was a huge flaw from the tournament organizer side, where they were charging $34 per person, which is absolutely absurd. So just to play in one of these events, you're talking about like $120 just to play in one, because you have to get your badge, plus you have to pay for entry. So that was just wild. So if you want to play the team event as well, you're talking about almost $70 in just your event tickets for just two events, which is just absurd, especially going to a convention. So I thought that was a huge missed opportunity and something that was definitely a barrier to entry and caused people not want to go to this event. The tournament organizer communication, we were told that the Friday team event was best of one. Well, that ended up being sad because that influenced all of our decisions. We showed up with no sideboards, and yeah, so you'll see what the deck I chose and why I chose for best of one here in a bit. But in general, I thought that was really poor. The negativity, like I touched on before, that was a huge issue. Luckily, though, the community was awesome. Getting to spend time with the people I enjoy the most. Seeing PPG there, seeing Dale and Mac there was pretty sick. It was cool to talk to him. He's one of the most humble guys. It was awesome to interact with him as well as the rest of the community and just catching up and talk about the game. Because I haven't gone to many events this year, so it was wonderful. And of course, I felt that the event was overshadowed, which is really sad. I definitely felt like the person that was organizing the event itself was definitely putting Argent Saga first, which Dragon Ball Super Card Game doesn't deserve that at all. This game is something that's still growing. It still has a ton of potential, and to basically have this event be overshadowed was something that's very upsetting. But I don't want to get too negative or get that stuff here. You saw Marcus Cantarsi's post about the event itself. And him talking to Bandai, so I will let that lie as is. But in general, I had an amazing time. So of course, Wednesday, like I said, I got in. We did some testing Wednesday night. Thursday, Marcus came. But not only we did testing, but we played a sweet basketball game in which myself and Frisco are up 1-0 on Jose and Marcus. So we're going to have to play a rematch, of course, as we move forward. Then, of course, we had the team event on Friday, which we thought was best of one. We thought we'd be able to get another ball game in. We did not get another ball game in because the event was best of three. And then Frisco, Zapp, and Nathan actually finished in the finals of that event. And then, of course, on Saturday we had the event itself, which I finished top 8. And Frisco actually finished in the finals, which is super sweet. So, really successful weekend for the house. Incredibly successful weekend for the house because it was myself. It was basically Fear Street Productions, Surrounds Layer Hotel staying together. And we basically had people in the finals from Fear Street Productions. And then we had people in top 8/finals from Fear Street Productions on Saturday, which was insane. So, that was pretty dope. The next thing to get into is what the format I thought was going to look like heading to the event itself, and we were pretty spot on. So I think your A tier, so I think these are the decks that kind of deform the format right now or set up the rules of engagement. Number 1 being Broly-Headed Mastery / Victory Strike decks. Number 2 being Janemba Mill. These decks kind of set your rule of engagement. You have to be able to win the game within the time frame that these clocks provide you, or disrupt them, right? Your B tier was your Kid Q, your Green Broly, Dende, Chain Xeno decks, and Red Deck wins. So basically any red aggressive deck like Gogeta or Baby Vegeta. And then your C tier was Vector Ramp, Shenron, Gogeta. I brought a version of these decks. Pretty much all of us had a version of these decks on us. We grinded a ton of games over the course of the week, and I feel like we found exactly where we wanted to be, especially for the singles event. Especially, with all the data that we presented over the weekend, taking into account what was played in teams, and then of course taking into account, all of the testing that we had just done. And honestly, at the end of it, it showed up with some easy truths. Like Frisco played Broly, had a mastery, got a second place finish. Marcus and Jose both played Chain Xeno with Hirudegarn, which led to them both having, above 50% win rates, which is exactly what you're looking for with a deck like that. So, they one win away from making top cut. And then myself and Zap both played Dende. Zap brought up the point that he felt like Dende was a deck that if it was well positioned to win the tournament. Myself, I was about to play Red Blue Hirudegarn, but of course Zap reminded me who I am. Basically, he was like Rafiki from The Lion King. He's like, remember who you are, like Mufasa, Basically, Zap is Mufasa, But he told me, I remembered who I was. He didn't want to play Dende. I played Dende. I played it incredibly well. I finished excellence. Was unfortunately Zap. And it had the opposite effect, which is really cool. Because basically, we both played the same exact deck because we both had the same exact goal. And one of us had everything lined up for them. The other one did not. And it was, really cool to see how the polarization, because Zap, of course, is a phenomenal player. So just seeing that polarization was pretty wild. So that leads me into, what did I play for teams? I played this sick brew. This is something that Pat had played at the Charlotte Celebrations for the Battle of the Gods event. I call it True Tyrant Gohan. Basically, you're going to be relying on Cooler, Blood of the Tyrant Clan, and Frieza Emperor Universe 7 to lock your opponent out of the game, because anything skill that they try and activate is going to cause them to cut a life. This deck was the deck that I wanted to play in best of 1 teams. If I would have known ahead of time and paid attention on the website and realized that it was best of 3 and not listened to the tournament organizer who told me it was best of 1, I would have played Dende in teams as well. But I did not. I opted to play this sick brew because in testing with myself, Zap, Marcus, when we were playing best of 1 games, this deck was absolutely smashing basically everything. It had game against everything in the format, including all the aggressive strategies, and then of course all the decks that tried to go long, like Janemba, trying to stall out the game. This deck just it's an axe murder when it comes to Janemba, unless they main like 2 to 3 copies of Mafupa. Then you have to be really, really careful about playing around those cards. But in general, this deck was so sick. You rely on your defensive cards like Time Magic and Crusher Ball, because I think they're both incredibly well positioned for the threats in this format. It allows you to play a really good tempo game in the early turns. You have stuff like Dark Power, Matsane as your Awakening cards, 4 Explosive Spirits on Goku, and 4 Son Goku Time to Fight. You kind of use those as like a revolving door. Pop your Son Goku Time to Fight, bring back your Explosive, and then you can do that play again later in the game to just keep your opponent's board clear, and then set up a bunch of barrier blockers for your opponent to try and get through while you're stalling out. 2 tech cards in G is striving to be the best, as well as a minus Achilles Zone as a concession to any sort of deck that plays Bloodlust or any deck with barrier guys. 4 Divine Crybeerus. It is 2-2 split with Shigesh if you want to play this deck best of 1 and you don't have to worry about splitting your deck with teams. 4 Frieza Emperor Universe 7. This is our main target with Cooler Blood of the Tyrant Clan. 1 Frieza Army Reborn. This is an alternate finisher for the deck itself that you can pull back with Cooler Blood of the Tyrant Clan. And of course we're playing the Cooler Squadron package. So this deck, the reason why we use the Son Gohan leader is because he has Burst 2, so it helps you fill up your drop area, and then you get to discard a yellow card, so it helps you, discard your Squadron cards or a Frieza card, and then draw 2. And then of course your backside, you awaken, you untap 2, and then when you attack, you draw a card with Sparking 5, and activate Mean, choose a sand in your drop area, that the yellow sand that's cost 3 or more, and place it in your hand. And so this actually combos really well when you're trying to play defensive, because you can bring back an Explosive Spirit Son Goku or Son Goku Time to Fight, and then just kind of start that loop again where you start killing your opponent's threats off. So the deck ends up playing really defensively and just really makes the game go to turn 4. Like, pretty much this deck always gets to turn 4. Like, always gets to turn 4. In which it then sets up its lock with Cooler Blood of the Tyrant Clan and Frieza Emperor Universe 7. And that's how this deck actually wins the game. I felt bad for a lot of my opponents because they didn't know what my cards did. They didn't realize what the strategy was, and then once it finally happened, it was too late. Their cards didn't do anything anymore. which is kind of sick when you're talking about stuff like Janemba that relies on autos, you're talking about stuff like Kidku that relies on activate mains and autos. There's just so many decks in this format that rely on all these different abilities, and this deck just punishes those strategies. So that's why I want to play it in best of one, because in best of one, your opponent, since if they don't know how to play against it in game one, you have the edge. So this was the deck that I was prepared to play in best of one, but unfortunately we got there, his best of three, and I didn't have any other decks on me, so I was stuck playing this. And, I won pretty much all my game ones, but game 2 and 3, once the opponent was more aware, it became much more difficult, especially because I didn't have a sideboard to really defend myself, because we were splitting so many cards between us, and they were just all cards out of Nathan's box. But if you're looking to take a deck to an event that's a local, casual play, or if it's just like best of one tournament, this deck is phenomenal. I really suggest you try it out. Tweak it, see if you can make some changes, make it better. But overall, I love this deck. It's so much fun to play. Definitely a contender for, those who are trying to play something more casual, more fun, but also has like a really high ceiling. So the deck is really, really sweet. And then, of course, let me go over the deck that I played in the main event, which was Clan of Terror Dende. I definitely think, as I said in the video at the title, 63 or 65, I think this deck was very close to being almost perfect for the weekend when it comes to the build. Of course, people will disagree. This deck, of course, is very similar to the deck you've seen before, played by a lot of members of Kitchen Table Menace, just Danny Hype, David Fujimura, and then, of course, anyone who also runs this sort of, Dende package. I guess my main innovation, it's not really an innovation, is I play 1x Frieza Storm of Blows in the main deck. Just having the additional removal allows you to just get through so many different things. Threats that you wouldn't think about before. It just gives you game against them, so you're not having to play a Returning Terror and then minus yourself in order to kill something. You can just play Storm of Blows instead. But basically, what I relied on was playing 4 Time Magics for defense, because this deck likes to top out a lot. So Nimbus is, usually a dead card. So I took all Nimbuses out. Me and Zap, we decided on 4 Time Magic being the right number, and the gate is incredibly good in this format. 2 Surprise Attack Frieza. We like this in game 1 against any deck where we need to apply the pressure early, so anything like Janemba. And it combines well, of course, with Clan of Terror Mecha Frieza incredibly well. 5 Dragon Balls, 2 1-star ball, standard. 1 Demigra, standard. 3 Bulmas. We felt like hedging against that matchup was more important, as well as if you ever, mill your 7-drop or mill your Demigra, you want to be able to get it back into your deck. We played 3-3-3 with our 1-drops. So 3 Sorbet, 3 Revenge in Motion, 3 Vicious Lackey Tagoma. Just allows you to make sure that you always see a card that you need. Tagoma ends up being impactful towards the mid to later parts of the game. Revenge in Motion is kind of like your setup card, and then Sorbet is a card that combos great with to the 2-drop Power Booster Tagoma to get you awakened on time. 4 Revival of the Emperor, of course it's your key card. 3 Dragon Raider, of course it's another key card. And then a Frieza package is 1 Returning Terror, 1 Storm of Blows, 3 Clan of Terror, 2 Occupation, and then 2 of the 7-drop to evolve into. So deck's very thin on margins. We had a lot of space that we wanted to use, and I think we used it really, really well with this 60. 60 felt great throughout the course of the day. Game 1s, if I was ever on the play, I felt like I was absolutely smashing. I was getting that early awakening turn, and games were going my way. And then on the draw, I never felt like I was disadvantaged. And then post-sideboard, I picked up a lot of percentage with the sideboard we had constructed. We had 1 Surprise Attack Frieza, 1 Bulma, 3 Returning Fire TNs for the Janemba matchup. Oftentimes you find myself siding out super combos as well as siding out time magics in that matchup. We have Deadly Defender Frieza that we take out the Storm of Blows for. Whenever we play against anything that has a lot of barrier guys, or decks like Hide Mastery, or even stuff like Rudigarn, where they have to attack into your leader to be able to do their draw to. So this was kind of like a niche card against them. Then we had Toki Toki, Kami, and Cronoa as, again, stuff against Hide Mastery to be able to stop Shigesh, as well as help clear boards. Kind of one of the cool plays is playing against Hide Mastery. I was able to, they had a Shin, a Roshi, and a Tau on board. I Clan of Terror, grabbed their Path of Greatness, put it in play tapped, and then played a Kami, wiped the boards completely, so that allowed me to unlock all my hand control strategies again, which is pretty sick. A 3rd 7-drop in matchups where you really feel like you need it, so like the Mill matchup where you need a finisher, or just in general where you think that Frieza 7 is going to be the most important card a lot of the time, so any matchup where you really need board wipes is really important. With 3 Crisis Crusher Son Goku for the Kid Goku matchups to be able to kill the 1-drop Son Goku The Adventure Begins, or the Bonds of Friendship Android 8. And then, of course, 2 Cargo. So this is the 2 cards I feel like we missed. Cargo we thought would be great in the skillless matchup, but honestly, with Crisis Crusher and then like your different removal options with Kami and things like that, we really didn't need to go that deep. I honestly think that this card needed to be Fledgling Talon Pan, because Mercenary Tau is a straight-up oppressive card when it comes to playing hand destruction strategy. So I feel like that was the miss on the weekend when it comes to the deck construction, was those 2 card slots should have been Fledgling Talon Pans. But in general, I thought this deck was great for the weekend. I highly recommend playing it before the anniversary box comes out if you have time, if you're looking to play a competitive deck and really push yourself. The reason why I chose to play this deck, the reason why is, Zap even reiterated, playing the type of game I like to play, is when I play, I really like to control my own destiny. So I don't like to play decks that rely on drawing a certain set of cards or hyperlinear and only have one way or one plan or, just a plan A and a plan B. I like to play a deck that allows me to make a lot of decisions across the course of the game and allow me to impact the game in that way. The more decisions I can make throughout the course of the game, the more things I can kind of take away from just being relying on the top of my deck, the better off I feel like my results end up being. And that's what led to me going X1 in Swiss, allowed me to get that top 8 appearance, and then allowed me to continue to do well going forward. Because of course this is a big win for myself as well as the team in general just to get this result. And so this is something I'll carry as we move on to future formats where we have the anniversary box, World Martial Arts Tournament promos, etc. So a couple things I would think about. So I would want to play it in Fledgling Talent Pans, and then honestly, either sideboard or main deck, you're going to want some number of Mutaito. That card is going to be insane. It's exactly what you want against the Height of Mastery decks. I think minus Killing Zone becomes more important for the Height of Mastery decks, but in general, I think Mutaito is going to be like a heavily sought after card and slots in great in this deck. You don't have to play 4-time Magics anymore. You can do 2-2 split in the main, and you can have your extra copies on the board. So I'm excited about testing those ratios out to see how that feels, because the Height of Mastery matchup is probably one of the hardest matchups for the deck itself, especially if they go first. So being able to have an answer to that in game 1 is really, really helpful. So I'm excited to see how this deck evolves into the new format, because it's really fun to play. Definitely one of my favorite decks. But in general, Origins weekend was a ton of fun. I had a blast. I'm excited for the next set of events I'm going to go to. I'm not going to Atlantic City, which is coming up, but I will be going to the PPG event in Richmond, since Richmond's in my backyard, so I'll see all you guys there. But thank you guys so much for everything. Thank you for the support. I'm excited to get this video up, and I'm going to continue to get more videos out there. I know I say that. Trust me, I'm incredibly busy, and I'm working on a bunch of things right now to make sure that we get you consistent content on almost a daily basis when it comes, whether it's the YouTube channel or the Patreon. You guys deserve it. This is the best community, and I want to make sure that we raise this game up to where it should be, because I think this game is amazing, and it just needs continued exposure, continued tender love and care from every single one of us. But again, as always, Scrub Fam is best fam. Thank you for everything. Okay, bye!